We're live. So, hey, everybody, we're super excited. Real live.
Starting off strong.
Yep. It's been a little bit, so we're excited to be back.
We're made for the camera.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Rolanda and
Anna
here from Purposeful Leader. We've been going over basically for the last, few weeks, we've been going over the different assessments that we use. And this one today we're going to talk about is called the Working Genius. And it's probably my favorite next to the disc.
By far, yeah. It's her favorite.
It is my favorite. And because the reason I love it is it's a little bit different than other assessments, whereas it kind of focuses on how do you find like the activities that bring you the most joy and productivity, right? And I love being happy and I love being productive. And it kind of highlights the areas where you do like kind of lose energy as well, like the activities that frustrate you. And so that's probably why I love it the most.
Yeah. And I like it because it ties very much to neuroscience and science. You may not know it, but I read a lot and I'm a nerd. So, I mean, the energy gains, energy drains that we're going to talk about, that's actually, in neuroscientists and scientists, it's like that's entropy. So entropy says that if you don't change anything, it will lead to dysfunction. If you don't have new energy inputs, it will lead to a slow decline or a slow shift. What was it that Unique talked about? The drift. Mm-hmm. It'll lead to a drift of if you're not changing anything. What is it? The definition of
insanity.
Thank you. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. So I really like it because I agree that it's very relevant to your workplace and also noticing what energizes you, i.e. what is productivity, and then learning about your team and what energizes them and just how to utilize it. So it took me a little bit to come around, but I like it now.
Yeah. So let's start from, I guess, where it was created. Patrick Lencioni actually, and a lot of times I think that's why I like it too, is because he kind of developed it. And I don't know if anybody's heard of the book, The E-Myth, but a lot of times business owners start off being good at something. And I can definitely relate to this. They start off at being good at something, and then they decide, I'm successful in it. I want to turn it into a business. And you turn it into a business. And before you know it, you're wearing every hat in the business, and you have to, learn and navigate how to go from a business owner to a manager and an entrepreneur, like all at the same time. And it's a process of learning of, what should you do and what shouldn't you do? And then the things that you shouldn't be doing, how do you delegate or how do you pass those off to the right people?
Yep.
So it's a whole process. And basically,
can I talk about E-Myth? Because I definitely want to piggyback off of that, because that is so good. It's a good example because Unique's been giving us coaching, like I've heard it 2 days in a row, about how we need to work on the business and not in the business. That's right. And so with E-Myth, it's how do you go from being the operator and doing it and being in the business to on the business. And so a lot of that is delegating, like a mindset shift. I think actually the more I learned about Rolanda and I is we're very controlling in different ways. And so it's hard for us to let go of tasks, hard for us to let someone, make mistakes, etc. So how do you work on the business and not in the business?
And that can be very challenging, especially when you are a little bit controlling and you want things to be a certain way. And there's no way of doing that without failing.
Yep.
And we don't like to fail. So it has been a challenge. And then like Anna said, like literally shifting your whole mindset. Like when you go to do something, you have to think of, okay, am I doing it as a doer or am I doing it as like an overseer? And then in the beginning, I think for us where we're at kind of right now is we had to be the doer, but now we have to pass it off. So what does that look like?
Exactly.
And so, it's a transition. And to bring it back to Patrick and what he did is what he was realizing is he loved what he was doing, right? I think he was in the marketing business and he loved what he was doing. But as he started to have to wear the business owner hat more often, he had to galvanize. And at the time, they didn't even have a language for it. He just knew, like, when he'd come to work, he'd start off happy in the morning. And as the day went on, he was like miserable and grumpy and he couldn't figure out why. So he sits down with a couple people in his team and he's like, look, I don't know what's going on. Something's happening here. I'm not enjoying this. I don't know. And they started to kind of work it out. And it turned into like a 4-hour strategy session of figuring it out. And what they ended up coming to, I'm going to switch it to where we can kind of show you the model that they came up with, right? What they came up with was a working model of like, there's every activity or every work, we'll say work activity, but this can apply to activities that are outside of work. If you're planning or doing any kind of work, whether it's actual professional work related or home, or you're in the community doing whatever, anytime there's a work activity that has to happen, there's three phases that it kind of breaks down into. One is the ideation. Okay, this is where all the ideas and the solutions are starting to be formed. Like there's something that somebody says, oh, okay, well, you know, I wonder if, or what if. And so you kind of start with the idea. Okay, we start to work on the solutions. And that's the ideation phase. That's the first phase of work being done. And then you go into activation, and that's the middle phase. Okay, so now you have a potential like problem, a potential solution. Now, how do we activate that, right? And what does that look like? How do we make our plan a little bit more solid? And how do we start to get the ball rolling, right? From activation, you go into implementation, and that's kind of like the last phase. And that's where everybody's actively working on and implementing the solutions that you guys have come up with through the last two phases or stages. And then you're seeing it all the way to completion, right? And so he's like, okay, every work has these three phases that it's going to go, or stages that it's going to go through. And now we're going to break it down a little bit more, because this is really where the problem lies, is when we're doing things in each one of these phases, there's different activities that have to be done in each phase. And so in the first phase, you'll see on our slide under ideation, we have a W, which stands for wonder, which is, okay, we're going to ask the question, like what's the problem? Or I wonder if. So you start to ask the question with the W. And on the next slide, I'll show you guys, we'll break it down a little bit more clear about each one of the different geniuses. Okay, so the W is the wonder genius. You start to ask the question, and then you go down from wondering, you go down to I, which is invention, right? Okay, now what are the solutions? What are the possible solutions? So you start to kind of say, okay, well, this is the problem. Here's a potential solution. You start to kind of play with that. And then once you kind of move past, okay, we have a potential solution, let's go into discernment. Now we're going to play with, okay, well, this part of the solution might work, but this part doesn't. And you kind of bounce it back and forth to come up with a better solution or more solid solution. And so you have to be more discerning in that. From there, you go to galvanizing, which is like, okay, we have as solid of a solution as we can come up with, through the process so far. Now let's start to get the ball rolling. Let's bring in the people that we need to, to kind of activate it. And so that person who's a galvanizer will come in and get everybody excited and energized around whatever the potential solution is to that. Once you start to galvanize people, now you're going to move into implementation, which means you're going to enable and support each one of the people who are involved, or the teams, or whatever parts of the organization are involved. You're going to bring them together. You're going to support them, give them what they need to be able to move to the next phase, which is tenacity, which means, okay, we're going to drive this home. We're going to bring it to completion. And one of the key things with each one of these working geniuses is that they're all equally important and they're all necessary. And the goal is to find out, okay, what are your working geniuses? Because there's three other components to it. You have your working geniuses, which are the activities that give you joy, energy, and you're most productive in them because you get energy and you enjoy doing them. And then you have your working competencies, where they don't necessarily give you joy or energy, but they don't take it away as much or as quickly, right? And I'll break it down, I guess, in a different analogy here in a minute. And then you have your frustrations, where it's like it drains your energy. You get frustrated with it and you don't want to sit there for very long. I know I'm talking a lot. I want to see. You want to pop in or no?
Yeah. I'll jump in just to kind of say it in different words, because sometimes it helps hear other examples. Like the ideation, it's the beginning phase. Activation, so that's where you're like spaghetti against the wall. You got your note cards. I like to do little note cards things. Like you've identified, your problem, and then you're going through this kind of phase. So ideation, which is where I love, because I just want to talk about it, is, what are the ideas? And then activation is cool. It's like the strategy. You're like, okay, identified the idea, the solution. Activation is we've got these people, discernment's like, hey, let's troubleshoot. Here's the gaps that I'm kind of seeing. So they're kind of, all right, do. Here's what's wrong, or here's the thing. Galvanizer's like, all right, team, we're going to rally. We're going to get it done, which is also what I like. Sure. Yeah, exactly. You're like, come on, team, this is exciting. And then implementation is kind of the accountability. And to be honest, the more and more I think about what we do is like, we do the accountability. Like we do all of it, but visionaries, teams, the implementation is the hardest part. And so that's been really exciting for me to think about how do we take working genius and actually implement it as a business. So that's actually been really cool
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, no, I love it. And then to kind of go back, like when we're talking like our working genius, Patrick kind of likens it to cups of coffee, right? Or different types of cups. So whenever you have your working genius, it's going to be like a thermal cup, right? Whatever you put in it, it's going to either stay hot or cold. You're going to keep that energy for a long period of time, right? So if you're in your working genius, whichever two those are, then whatever you put in, you're going to be able to utilize for quite a while, right? Now, if you're in your competencies, it's like just a regular ceramic mug. Whatever you put in, it might hold that temperature for a little bit, but eventually it's going to start to get to room temperature and it's not going to give you the same effect, or it's not going to taste the same or feel the same after a little while. When you go into your frustrations, it's like a cup that has a hole in it, right? You're just wasting energy, you're pouring into it. And so, as you kind of navigate it, the goal with the working genius is to understand what your working geniuses are and your frustrations, because you want to stay more and do more of the activities that bring you energy and joy, and do less of the frustrations, right? And it's not always, you can't always do that, but you want to try to do that as much as you can. And in the areas where you can't, then you need to learn how to kind of be able to shift your mindset or your mind frame to, or be creative in how can I look at this from, one of my working geniuses. What is it called? Like
Competence?
No, like you want to be able to try to shift how you look at it to be like, okay, well,
reframe.
Yeah, reframe it to where like, okay, for example, mine is enablement and tenacity or my working geniuses. So when I'm doing something that might be frustrating because I don't like, for example, I don't like galvanizing, but if I shift, because galvanizing and enablement are a little bit, they could kind of be similar. I could shift it and be like, okay, well, if I focus on the people and supporting the people while I'm galvanizing, or, something to that effect, or whatever the activity is, it might be easier for me to kind of push through. But either way, you don't want to stay in your frustration for too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I talked about what she said it. And then kind of underlining is like the energy is really noticing what tasks are going to add benefit to you, because people leave their job burned out. Like everybody's like, I'm exhausted, I'm so tired. It doesn't have to be like that. That's what's interesting, is we think that work needs to be draining. Like we at Purpose Field Leader, we work way more than 40 hours. I don't even want to talk about how many hours I work, but I'm happy and I'm excited and I'm passionate because I care about what I'm doing and I'm able to operate in my strength zone. And so work can be an overextension or an extension of joy. And so kind of what Roland is saying, like these are tasks that don't have to drain us, that can actually fill our cup. And it's noticing what your cup is. And then if you're an executive or a business owner, a team leader, a manager, really, really listen to this, because your team, you want to get the best out of your team. You want to go further, faster. And you do that by putting people in their strength zone. And a lot of times I'll just stick for myself. I overly focused on what I wasn't good at, instead of operating under like, oh, okay, well, I'm not good at that. And I'm not alone. Like there are other people that are here that can support me. And so just do this assessment with your team members. And then, so anyways, business owners, executives, pay attention to your team members and their strengths and put them there too, not just yourself, but you have the power to leverage your people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that Anna brought up like how to use it as a team, right? And so just like with all of our assessments, you need to know who's at the table and what they're good at. And we always talk about focusing on the strengths and, understanding your weaknesses. And one of the things with this assessment specifically is you can kind of see where people who doesn't want, like our vision is, we want organizations that are going to, where the team members or the employees are going to say, thank goodness it's Monday.
Yep.
And so who doesn't want happy and productive,
and
team
energized
team members working on their team. And so one of the things with working genius is you can kind of, once everybody takes the assessment, you can look at what we call like the team map, and it'll show you, it doesn't go over the competencies because We want you to focus on the geniuses and the frustrations, because we want you to be able to say, okay, this is a genius. For example, with Anna, she's a galvanizer. So, okay, we know at what stage, like if we're at a specific stage, galvanizing is not it's actually one of my frustrations. So we know that, okay, for this specific task or this part of, the phase of work, we need to bring Anna in. If she's not already at the table, we need to bring her in, right? And so you kind of know how to place your people, even if because there's some organizations where you might not be able to do it exactly, but you can pull, if you're smart, you'll pull people into different conversations to be able to utilize them correctly, and kind of visualize, okay, where are our gaps? How do we fill those gaps? And how do we leverage everybody's kind of strength on the team?
Yep. And it doesn't have to be their job title.
No,
like you can have an administrative assistant and you can say, well, tenacity is probably what I need from them day to day. And we've got this initiative, like we're trying to implement pay per performance. I'm just throwing something out, and we've done that before, and it's awesome. And that's how you get people in their strength zone, is you put them there and you make more money because they're being paid to perform in the area they're good at. Anyways, I digress. But you can say, all right, we're implementing this, and they're a galvanizer. So, all right, Sarah, you're good at galvanizing. So I need you. We've got the idea. Bring the excitement, bring the energy to it. And then that way you're able to leverage them in a non-job description, non-job titled way, but they're still going to be energized by that.
Yeah. And another thing we like to talk about with not just this assessment, but other assessments, is the language behind it. Like when you're able to kind of have language behind the different things that you do, it makes a big difference. Like and not feeling guilty too.
Yeah.
So the language, and then not feeling guilty because I'm not an inventor. Like it drains me when I have to start from scratch with something. So it's going to take me a lot longer. I'm probably going to get frustrated with it. And before, I kind of used to be like, dang, why can't I get this? Like, why is it taking me so long? And now it's like, okay, that's not my strong suit. Mm-hmm. I can do it. It's just going to take me longer, and I'm probably not going to be as happy about doing it, but I don't, beat myself up about it anymore.
Right. And when she says language, it's like, in coaching terms, it's called a process call, where you're just saying like, hey, and I use DISC because it's easier. So DISC is like, C is the person who's like details and, wants executing well. And so sometimes I can say to Rolanda, hey, you're being a C right now. Like you're being too much of a perfectionist, and we need to say good enough to move on. And she can say, hey, Anna, you're being an I, which is the idea person. I forget. What is the I?
Influence.
Thank you. Is the influencer. Like, Anna, you're excited about something and it's not possible right now. So you're being an I. So the language is, and we could go to working genius, like, hey, I need you to galvanize, Anna, or hey, chill. Like you're galvanizing and pushing for something too hard and we're not ready for it.
Yeah.
So there's just a way to make it almost have levity and have it like, not a, hey, you're so annoying and flighty and you never your ideas are all over. No, okay, that's a good idea, Anna. And let's think through, like, because I'm the one that's going to implement this. I'm the T, I'm tenacity. So let's work through this. So that's kind of what we mean by language.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to say, like, once everybody kind of understands like the different phases and stages and how all the different personalities kind of come together, you can say, okay, like for example, we're past ideation, we're into activation. Now somebody comes in with wondering, and remember, every genius is important. Every genius is equally important. It's just, okay, what phase are we at? If we're in activation and we have somebody whose genius is wonder and they're coming back and asking a lot of questions, you want to, just like Anna said, like, hey, that's a great question, but that's not the time right now. We need to nail down this. We need to discern and figure out how we're going to move forward in this specific stage, and then kind of keep it going. Then they don't feel bad, and it doesn't like undercut, that genius, because you want that genius. You need that genius. It's just, now's not the time.
It's literally, hey, I see you in your strength and I see that. And right now we're here. And so it's just a redirecting. It's a reframe. So yeah, it's a lovely way to just kind of, all right, and we're here now. So let's use your W for this, not for that. So yeah.
Exactly. So I'm going to go to the next slide because I know I went through each genius a little fast. And so here are the actual 6 types of genius and what they kind of do. And we'll go back and forth. I'll go with wonder, you'll go with invention. Okay. So wonder is the ability to ponder possibilities and ask big questions. They're like the daydreamers, right? That just sit there and they could sit for hours and just think of, okay, why this? Or I wonder this, or what if this, And so that's where the usually everything starts is somebody asked a question, right? And that's the beginning of the work.
Yeah, kind of the big why. Like if you're trying to find your why, hit up the wonder, because they'll be like, well, here's all the things. And what's cool for invention is they're able to take the wonder and kind of take the ball and say like, ooh, that's exciting. I see the why. Now let's get a little bit to the how. But the inventor is going to get really bogged down if you go straight to the why and then the KPIs or the why and then like the action steps. They're going to be the one that gives a little bit more like a redirection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you definitely. That's not my strong suit, but you know, invention is extremely important. They're the ones that are going to start to see the vision and the pieces and answer some of the questions of the why. So then, guess what? The discerner can come in, right? The discerner, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a subject matter expert in that area. You just have good intuition and decision making and judgment, and so you're able to kind of see the bigger picture that you know is coming together and say, okay, well, maybe this, maybe not that, and just start to move some things around, so then your solution comes a little bit more solid.
Yeah, and then you need somebody to champion the solution, because it's easy to see something on the wall, but if you don't have somebody saying like, hey, Anna, this is where I see you in this, or hey, Rolanda, this is your strength, like how exciting, and won't it be cool when the person that's just kind of like pushing the energy and the emotion to give the excitement underneath the initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. The galvanizers are extremely important. They get everybody energized and excited about it. And then they like to pass the ball because they're like, that's it. I don't really care about past this. I'm more excited about the idea and sharing it and getting everybody excited. Now we need somebody who's going to support each component to this, to this activity. Like, how do we get here? And the person that enables comes in and says, okay, this is what we're doing. How do you need me to support? And then helps them put the pieces together and is there to support. I think this one is kind of funny because the first time we did this workshop, everybody did not like, an enabler is not necessarily looked at as something positive, right? And I think we say this all the time. A lot of times our weaknesses are overextensions of our strength. So being an enabler can be a weakness if you enable the wrong things. So just making sure, like, as an enabler, it's also positive. You're going to support, you're going to help, you're going to assist as people are walking and implementing the solutions.
Well, actually, and to add to that, I'm an enablement strength. I even don't like saying enabler because it does have a negative connotation.
Right. We got to change that.
You need guardrails for enablers, because enablers are going to insert themselves into different things because they're trying to help. And so it's almost like the enabler needs to focus on what their work is and having discernment and wisdom as to what projects and initiatives to support on. And Unique had to do that for me. Like, I used to be a part of everything, and then he pretty much was like, nope, you need to be out of that. And it hurt my feelings because I was like, dude, I want to help. I want to be a part of it. Like, it excites me to see people thrive, and it excites me to see, and I'm pushy too. So now I'm kind of realizing Rolanda saw my enablement as me being like pushy. And so, but that's because I'm a galvanizer too. And so when I'm a galvanizer, when I see something, I'm like, let's do it, this, and this. And so anyways, like, to underline what she's saying, your weaknesses are an overextension of your strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And so after, you got to do tenacity.
Oh yeah. This is funny. I'm doing tenacity because I don't like it. So here was my reaction. I'm very motivated and I like getting stuff done, but that's not what tenacity is. Because I was like, well, I cross stuff up on my list. No. But the tenacity person loves to see things to completion. They're the ones that are like, all right, I got the pathway, I've got the steps. I'm gonna make sure this is completed to excellence. And so that's the person that you need to take it like and just knock it out of the park. And the tenacious person is going to like reiterating and seeing the process, seeing it through continually. And so there's some people who are good at starting things, like myself, starting things, exciting people, and then having the next person be like, all right, I'm going to run this every week. I'm going to run this, or I'm going to make sure this is implemented well. So I had to reframe tenaciousness because I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah. And I absolutely love it. And the thing is, like, kind of to highlight what Anna said, keep in mind with your working genius, if you're a high achiever, you're going to muscle through and you're going to be good. You could be like good at all 6 of the different activities of work. You can insert yourself and you can be successful at it, but does it give you energy? Right. Because you want to save your energy or you want your, as you're doing the work, you want your energy to be replenished, right? And if you're just pouring it out, like I said, into a cup that's empty, then you're not going to be as productive. And that's why it's like kind of a productivity type assessment, right? So Anna is, like she was talking about, crossing things off her task list. She's gonna get things done regardless, but is she gonna be drained at the end of it, right? Because she's not, her working genius is not to see it through to completion. It's to get it started and pass the ball, and she wants somebody else to drive it home, right? And I'm actually the opposite. I get a lot of joy from seeing things completed, right? And so one of the things I keep highlighting with this is, like, at the end of the day, it's for you to understand what your working genius is and what your frustration is. Because as a entrepreneur and business owner, like, especially when you're first getting started, it can be very frustrating when things, especially if you're a tenacious person, because you're trying a lot of things and you don't complete a lot of things. And so for me, I'll realize, like, if I'm being drained or if I don't have the energy I need, okay, let me look at the activities I'm doing. Am I completing anything? And if I'm not, then I'll be like, okay, you need to find something to complete, to replenish, and to give you a little bit of joy, so you can muscle through not completing things, right? Or my other genius is enablement, or I need somebody to tell me, like, I'm supporting appropriately. Like, if you give me a little bit of motivation saying, yes, thank you, that support helps. And I'm like, okay, I got a little bit more in the tank now. So understanding, where you kind of lie with your geniuses and finding ways of filling the tank. And another thing we talk about is, if you can't fill it at work, then you got to find something on the outside, a way to fill up your tank on the outside. Absolutely. So then when you come to work, even if you drain a little bit, you still have that energy kind of to move forward.
And then I don't know why it click now, but right person, right seat. That's why, like, we talk all the time to business owners, and we're building products literally to teach people how to have the right person in the right seat. So light plug for 2025. But yeah, this is literally when you're putting someone in their strength zone, the right person in the right seat. When you define both those things, you're able to put that person there from the start. That's why recruiting matters. So totally.
Absolutely. Well, we hope that you got a little bit of an insight, when it comes to working genius. Like I said, this is probably my favorite assessment we do, and then DISC is right behind it. I think next time we'll do Enneagram, which is a beast. So we might take a couple.
And we do workshops. Don't miss it. The reason we're telling you the cheat code is because, one, we want you to do this with your team, because we want, thank goodness it's Monday, organizations, and our profit isn't necessarily in money, it's in impact. However, we would love to be the ones to come in and work with your team and really get that. Well, I'm a galvanizer, so I'd be great at it. I'm just kidding. But and really get that insight and that empathy and the shared language. Like, that to me is the best part of it, is you have empathy and shared language, so that your team members can start saying, oh, snap. All right, you're doing that thing. That's not what we need right now. We need this. Can you la, 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 la. So, yeah.
Yeah. With all of our workshops, they're all focused on people and bringing teams together. We solve a lot of pain points when it comes to dysfunction and lack of, clarity and communication, things of those nature. So we would love to come in, work with your team, share some of these wonderful, amazing assessments that we do, and teach you how to put them into application.
Yeah. Idea to implementation.
There we go. Well, we hope everybody enjoys the holidays tomorrow. Eat lots of turkey if that's what you eat.
And then take a nap if you want to. Yeah. You could have tofurkey, then you won't need a nap.
That doesn't even sound good.
I was vegan for a while. It's fine.
It's fine, but it's not good.
It's not the same. But yes, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in a couple weeks. We'll be breaking